I am honored to introduce this year's commencement speaker, Nancy Rubin. Rubin served as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Commission on Human Rights. She has been a teacher, public servant, and global champion for human rights, social justice, public service, and mental health. Rubin began her professional journey as a teacher in the Los Angeles Unified School District before going into public service. She worked for the Corporation for National and Community Service and helped build AmeriCorps, which has engaged over 800,000 young Americans in public service programs since 1994. Rubin is a director of the National Democratic Institute and previously served as director of Women for Women International. She's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. She is a leader in the ongoing effort to ratify the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and she represented the United States at the NGO Forum of the 1985 and 1995 World Conferences on Women. She founded Community Outreach and was the first chair of the National Mental Health Awareness Campaign. By the way, did I mention that Nancy Rubin's journey began with a degree in sociology from UCLA? So, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure and an honor to introduce to you Nancy Rubin.
Thank you, Dr. Sweeney, for welcoming me back to UCLA. How wonderful for me to be able to share in the recognition of this very special talent bank that emanates from this extraordinary school. On this rather remarkable rite of passage, it is a privilege to stand before the faculty, alumni, special guests, and of course, you, the graduates of the UCLA School of Sociology. I also stand here quite honestly wondering that with the latest poll of 171,000 applicants, if I would even qualify to get in today. I congratulate every member of your area of study, which services humanity, its care, and its future. With this sensibility, you are likely to be amongst the most valued participants in leading cultural change. And I particularly want to give a shout out to the first gens of the class of 2018. I also want to salute all the families. They've had your backs, they've supported your dreams, and they walked the way with you from the first day of registration to this excitement of your graduation. Many years ago, I was sitting where you are. What separates us isn't just years and the ability to navigate Tinder. What separates us is that today you're looking forward and I'm looking back. What I've learned along the way is that life is both a head game and a heart game, with both elements of equal importance to our personal contentment. And while I have the moment of pause with each of you, and in fact am holding you captive, I'm focusing today pretty much on the inner life. As I've grown throughout the many years of my life, I've come to have great respect for the word yes. It's an affirmation of a commitment to personal involvement in the challenges we face. Perhaps the millennial poet Cleo Wade said it best. I said yes. I said yes to living I said yes to loving. I said yes to being myself, illuminated and unafraid. I believe yes can be a key to a rewarding and satisfying inner and outer life. Yes is an attitude, a choice that you make. It's a life-affirming, self-fulfilling force. Of course, it's always possible along the way that yes can turn into a no. Sometimes no is important. We meet life as it is, and it's frequently complicated. And we look beyond obstacles for fresh solutions. Undoubtedly, one of the biggest battles ahead will be the ones within. We all question our self-worth, we all feel alone at times, and frequently we are mired with uncertainty. These are universal feelings. But the trick is to find self-acceptance and stretch past our comfort zone to get to yes. I first realized the power of yes way back in the 70s. My mother, Dee Dee Hirsch, a social worker, was dying of cancer. The mental health center that she was working in was about to close. She was deeply concerned with leaving those with mental health issues behind. I knew I couldn't save her life, but I wondered, might I be able to save the services to provide a lifeline for those she had dedicated her life to? Though I didn't really know where to begin, I said yes and started a very small organization as a very young woman called Community Outreach to advance mental health services. I had no idea at the time that this endeavor, with the work of many others, would ripple out and end up supporting the Dee Dee Hirsch Community Mental Health Centers here in Los Angeles, named in my mom's honor. Those centers now serve over 100,000 persons a year, and we continue to run the first 24/7 suicide hotline in the country. And here's the meaning of ripple. Today, almost 50 years later, I'm working to build the most comprehensive center on suicide prevention in the country. I said yes decades ago as a loving daughter. This has brought me a sense of deep personal pleasure and accomplishment. This is how my life unfolded. One never quite knows where the path leads. It's always surprising and unpredictable. But that yes has led me to a lifetime of appreciation for the power of yes and that ripple effect. Years later, my courage to step up and speak out was tested again. After having worked in the field of women's rights and human rights, I had to confront my inner uncertainty about my real capabilities. I had been nominated by the President of the United States to be the United States Ambassador to the United Nations Commission on Human Rights. I was told that for political and policy reasons, the Senate hearings would be grueling, and I'd be confronted rather immediately with very pointed questions about human rights abuses, histories, traditions, and tribal turmoil in close to 193 countries. I asked myself, do I have the nerve to be grilled? Do I have the knowledge and skills to be adequately a fine representative for all those who depended on my services? I had many doubts, but I summoned the capacity to say yes, to the test ahead. And that yes opened a very personal lens on the human condition and moved me to greater activism, as I hope to move you today. I said yes to becoming a global citizen and building my life to be the person I aspired to be. Lives today are more interconnected, interdependent, and intersectional. The world is feeling smaller, our boundaries are collapsing, and we're all experiencing the richness of diversity. We must also be conscious of moving from our safe spaces to brave spaces, from self-protection and detachment to inclusion and compassion in our daily lives. And, this is important, I've found that no act of kindness or caring is too small. Wherever in the world we may be, a real heartfelt thank you or a smile of recognition can be absolutely transformative. And for our inner being, doing good feels good. 84% of millennials give to charitable organizations in new ways. That's quite remarkable. You give clothes and food and your precious time as volunteers. You can bring hope to a child in need of shelter, or to a village in need of electricity, or to an issue that needs advocacy to realizing rights. It's never been easier. Just find one on the internet. Saying yes to respecting the dignity of others is the bedrock of social justice. And social justice calls out. The world we're handing off to you is not pretty. Over 1/2 of the population lives on less than $2.50 a day, and there are 66 million displaced looking for a welcoming landing. There's unequal opportunity, poverty, racism, abuse, discrimination of every kind that surrounds us and should offend us. Silence, cynicism, or crisis fatigue does not serve our moral compass. So, say yes to standing up rather than standing by to all that is petty, unkind, and destructive. And along the way, you will find who you are reflected in the faces of all those lives you touch. Today, there are many faces and voices rising to say yes to both old and new challenges and taboos. We've seen the bravery of Parkland students, the historic number of women running for political office, and the breaking of tradition at Windsor. Institutions also seem quite impervious to change until they aren't. But that requires the courage to say yes. Yes, in refusing the status quo. An activist, Tarana Burke, refused to accept a society rife with abuse and sexual assault. And that movement has taken decades to go global. Cristina Jimenez, another activist, raised her voice against the unjust treatment of undocumented immigrants and said yes to United We Dream. Nadia Murad said yes and became an international activist to expose human trafficking. It's when you've said yes to the light you have to share that you're illuminating a path forward for others. The world needs your yes You can create a ripple, a wave, or join one. But be incorruptible and indefatigable in acting on your ideas. You'll like yourself more, and that self-respect will be a profoundly powerful force in your life. And say yes to love and more love with an open and forgiving heart. And yes, yes, to the fun you create with your particular lifeboat of friends from UCLA. It's the authentic and intimate connections that will nourish you and keep you safe and sound. It's your time. You're entering a new phase of life where you are the designers of your very own futures. It's a time of wonder, of opportunity for personal triumph, and it's your chance to construct a life in which you are who you want to be, and who you want to be and who you are become the same thing. And finally, I hope you'll carry the thoughts of the opening poem with you wherever you go, to right a wrong or sing your personal song. I said yes. I said yes to living. I said yes to loving. I said yes to being myself, illuminated and unafraid. Congratulations to each of you, and enjoy the sweet spot of yes, which you're going to find inside your programs. Congratulations to each of you.